Well, it's a great pleasure on Dashing Down's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans, who deal with anyone in Australia. They've got clients in every state and capital city. They do Zoom as well. We've had a lot of past Olympians. We've had a lot of broadcasters so far. We get our first current Olympian, who in a few weeks' time will be representing his country in Paris in the sport of hockey. We know how successful the hockey team have been. They haven't won maybe the gold medals many of us thought they could have won, maybe should have won, but to win medals like this Australian team is able to do and make semi-finals is an unbelievable performance. And they're very unlucky back in 2021 not to win gold. They lost in a penalty shootout of all things to Belgium in the final. One of their star players, originally from New South Wales, spent some time in New Zealand, is Tom Craig, and he's been good enough to join us on the program. He'll be a key member of the Australian Kookaburras team. Tom, welcome to the program. Good to have you with us.
Thanks, Dan. Pleasure.
How are you feeling? I mean, you missed out at the last minute in Tokyo because of injury. You must be so keen on taking to the pitch in a few weeks' time in Paris for Australia.
Very, very keen. I wouldn't say it was the last minute. I would say it was about 35 minutes in that my Olympic dream was over. But very excited. I think it's come around so fast. Olympic year always does. It just flies by, and we're almost there.
So you actually took to the pitch and got injured, and
I did.
were then
First
replaced.
game, yeah.
Is that right? Is it?
Yeah. So first game, I think it was pretty much towards the end of the third quarter. I did Miami, so not ideal, but here we are.
And how did you cope with that for the rest of the tournament? And has it been something that's been in the back of your mind that you're determined more than ever to make every post a winner after doing your hammy, or is it something you've forgotten about now?
Not really. It was how did I get through it? I think we spoke with medical staff and the head coach, and typically it was a 3-week injury, and I think we had like 9 days to the gold medal batch, and we set ourselves a task of trying to rehab in that time, and get back to be an option should they need me for the gold medal match, and it was a great experience actually, because I'm fairly confident I rehabbed my leg in 7 days. By the time that 7th day rolled around, I was ticking all the kind of fitness markers, and doing well, which was good to have something to do. Basically, I just kind of told myself I'm going to play the next game. I'm going to play the next game. I'm going to play the next game. So I kind of just delayed that disappointment until I didn't get the nod before the gold medal game, and then by that stage there was bigger disappointment for the team really than just my little trouble. So it was all good.
Watching that game, when you get to a penalty shootout, you've obviously got to execute your penalties the best you possibly can, but how much luck is it involved, and is it the best way when it's all locked away after regular time and extra time like soccer? Is it the best way to decide a gold medal? Is it the only way, Tom, you think?
It's not. I think with hockey, there's no extra time. There used to be extra time, which was awesome, but there no longer is, which I think really deprives, in my opinion, fans and players of probably the best hockey that can be played. Like I think we see it in all sports when it's extra time, everyone's fatigued, they're going for it. It's just about how far you can dig, and I think everyone likes to see that. So it's a bit of a shame for me, and my own opinion, that it goes straight to a shootout. As for luck, you kind of tend to make your own luck. I think a shootout is a little bit different to a soccer shootout, or a football shootout, where I guess I'm no expert, but if you pick the right way, then you give yourself a pretty good chance. Obviously, there's research that goes into it and those sorts of things, but a shootout for hockey is a little bit more mobile. So there's obviously a lot of research that goes into what keepers do, what strikers do when they're taking them. But because it's mobile, I think there's a fairly large chunk of skill that goes into it. But yeah, I wish we had extra time.
Kookaburra Tom Craig has joined me for Dashing Down's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans. He'll be part of the Australian team in Paris. Does it annoy the team, Tom, that, and I think it's unfair, that the Australian men's team gets the reputation of being chokers? They're seen as the best team in the lead up to the Olympics but have won one gold medal, yet they constantly make semis and they constantly win medals. I mean, is that a bit of an unfair tag that they're often given?
I think, I mean, people can say whatever they want. I think it's always an attractive headline, chokers. It's good, but for us, like that'd be quite a nice story to rewrite. I think in hockey, it's been like particularly in the lead up to Tokyo, for example. I don't think we were world number one. I think there are a good cluster of teams who were pretty good. So to win a silver medal and come so close to winning gold was against the world champions Belgium was not what we wanted. But I wouldn't call it a choke. Other people might, but I wouldn't. And then in previous years, I guess Olympics are quite hard to win. They're the pinnacle of our sport. You know, teams really sharpen at the right time. And while some performances have been underwhelming, yeah, we're looking to do our best this year for sure.
How confident is the team feeling that they can win their second Olympic gold medal?
Yeah, we're feeling good. We're feeling good. We're confident that if we play our best, then our best will be good enough to give us a really good chance of progressing through the tournament and eventually coming home with some silverware. So yeah, we're confident.
You've got a great history. You spent some time in New Zealand, and over there, it was all rugby union. Just give us a thumb sketch, if you can, how big that sport is. And it just sort of towers over everything else, even though they're quite good at hockey. They're quite good now at cricket. And they're pretty good at netball. But rugby union's king, isn't it?
I don't know how qualified I would be to answer that. I grew up in Australia. My parents are from New Zealand.
Right.
My most of my extended family are in New Zealand. I can definitely say that in our household, which is a little microcosm of New Zealand, rugby definitely dominated the TV for all Friday and Saturday nights, as we all watched pretty much every game of rugby that was put in front of us. So, yeah, and I guess I probably grew up wanting to be an All Black, but other than that, yeah, I can't really comment about New Zealand, but I know it's big sport.
Why hockey? How did you get into that?
Um, we, our family lived in Canada for a little while, and my brother and I, older brother, when we came back to Australia, we got these NHL VHS tapes that we watched on Saturday mornings, and we really wanted to play ice hockey at our local rink, but it was quite expensive to play ice hockey, and I don't think Mum was too keen on the idea. So she made us try field hockey first. So we just found a local club, went down, gave it a go, and kind of fell in love with it and really stuck. I remember growing up just thinking it was such a hard, challenging game, and being really drawn to the difficulty of it. And I thought, yeah, I loved it, and one thing led to another, and I kept going and never played ice hockey actually, but kept going with field hockey, and it's gone okay.
You still follow the ice hockey? It's a pretty good comp, isn't it? The Stanley Cup. It's great to watch.
It's cool. It's cool. I don't watch it as much as I maybe watch other sports, other American sports, but I do like I watch some highlights here and there. And I'm a big sports fan generally, so I'll probably tune in when it gets to the pointy end of the season.
Tom Craig is my guest. He is one of the stars of the Australian men's hockey team getting ready for Paris in a few weeks' time. Tom, when did you feel, and of course we're here for Aussie Home Loans, Tom, when did you feel that you were going to be good enough to represent your country? And you did make your debut, of course, at the tender age of 19.
Yeah, that happened pretty quickly, I'd say. As I said, being a Kookaburra wasn't really something that I aspired to growing up. I just kind of played hockey because I really loved it, and I think, yeah, one of the difficulties with our sport is we don't have the same platform as the major sports in Australia. So I think I only ever watched the Kookaburras play live once before I actually played for them. And it happened so quickly. Like I was just out of high school, and then you kind of get sucked into the talent identification program, and one thing led to another, and yeah, I got the call to go and debut for Australia. So it happened pretty quickly. I guess like the moment I realized it was going to happen was probably when they tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're going to play for Australia." So that was pretty cool.
What was the experience like? I mean, to be someone so young, to have some great players around you, to have Rick Charlesworth involved at the time, and then later on Colin Batch. I mean, was it a moment where you sort of had to pinch yourself, or just, okay, I've got my chance now. Let's prove to them that I'm good enough. They've given me a chance. Let's show that I am good enough.
It happened. It happened super quick, as I said. I think there were quite a few retirements after the 2014 World Cup, which was a brilliant tournament for Australia. I think they conceded, I don't know, less than 3 goals or something for the entire tournament. And they ended up winning the final 6-1. And off the back of that, a lot of Australia's great hockey players retired, and there was time for some young, or an opportunity for some young players to come in. So coming into a team that had just previously been so dominant on the world stage was super exciting, to be honest. And the players that I just watched tear the world apart a few months before were all of a sudden passing me the ball, and I was just like, I don't know. When you're so young, I think it just feels awesome. Like every moment is like, oh, this is so cool. There's no real pressure. You're not thinking about any pressure or anything like that, or proving that you're good enough or anything. It was more just enjoy it, and like that, it was kind of over, and I made the squad. So yeah.
Did it take you long to feel like you belonged at the highest level?
I don't think you're really thinking about that really. Early, as I said, it just kind of happened, and other people obviously thought I was good enough, and I'd had some success at the um, like our national championship for men's national championship. So I felt like I could definitely play. And also, one of the great things about the Kookaburras is that they're so good at wrapping their arms around younger players. So the first, I remember Tim Deven, who was in the team at the time when I went to the Champions Trophy. I remember the first game. He just said, like, these guys who you're playing against are no better than anyone that you play at AHL. It's the same, and we were all here to have your back. So I maybe foolishly, I never felt too uncomfortable. Yeah, at that level.
What was it like putting on the shirt for the first time, the green and gold shirt to represent your country in hockey? Was that again a surreal moment for you, Tom?
It was surreal because it was a day later than what it was supposed to be. My there's a rule that you have to have the passport of the country that you're going to play for.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as I mentioned before, my parents are from New Zealand, so when the officials asked for my passport, I presented my New Zealand passport, and that was deemed not good enough. So I had to quickly get a passport. So missed my debut actually, and then had to play in the second game of that India series. But when I was standing there, I don't really remember it like that. As I said, it just happened so fast. Kind of the gravity of what I was doing never really sunk in. I just thought it was pretty cool. I was over in Perth, playing in front of a home crowd. We were playing in India, so there were so many Indian fans there. There was drums. Mum and dad were in the stands. A mate of mine flew over from Sydney to watch me. It was just such a cool moment. Um, yeah, I just thought this is awesome.
Just on the passport, and Tom Craig is my guest. He'll be playing for the Kookaburras for the men's hockey tournament. He's here for Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures and also Aussie Homelines. Great to have him with us. Just on the passport situation, if it was today, Tom, you might have been even able to play the second game because it's the length of the Flemington Strait to be able to get a passport, although I suppose they might have pushed it forward a bit if you are an elite sportsman like your good self.
I'm not sure what happened, but I do know that I spent some time, um, yeah, in some government building the day of my debut, trying to get this thing going. And I didn't see everything that happened behind the scenes, but I did get my passport. I was obviously an Australian citizen, and I could present my birth certificate and all things like that. I just never applied for a passport. I'd always traveled on my New Zealand one, so yeah, I think they could get it through pretty quickly.
Now, to be part of the hockey program at an elite level, you need to be based in Perth, and we've had some outstanding players that have come from WA over the years. You've been there for 10 years now. Do you see Perth as home?
No, Sydney's still home for me. Yeah, I grew up there. My friends are there. Um, my home club's there. I'm very proud of coming from Sydney and would like to think that I proudly represent the people who got me to where I am. So for me, definitely Sydney is still home. However, my partner's in Perth. I've spent, as you said, almost my entire adult life in Perth. But I do like to get back to Sydney as much as possible and be around the club and be around my friends. But as you know, when you get older, people start to move away. So I guess in that sense, Perth, I'm comfortable in Perth now. But it did take a long time, yeah.
Did it take a long time because of the fact that it's, as we all know, it's the most isolated city in the world? And if you're from the eastern states, and I spent time in Perth as well, it just takes a long time almost to be accepted. And that's nothing against the Western Australian people, but if you're from the eastern states, you're sort of seen as the enemy a little bit in some ways, aren't you? In a nice way, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
was that one of the issues you had? You reckon, Tom?
not really. I wouldn't really know much about that. I think definitely, as I said before, the strength of our team is the community. And most of us are not from Perth, so we kind of become each other's family over here, and we wrap our arms around each other. And we're each other's best mates over here, you know. So yeah, there's not. I think um, maybe it was just kind of like an unwillingness because I was so young when I moved to Perth. And all my mates were still in Sydney, having the time of their lives at uni, moving out of home for the first time, those sorts of things. I just felt like I was missing out on a big chapter of my life, and tried to get back to Sydney as much as possible, which probably stopped me really embracing the Perth life, which I'm sure would have wrapped me up if I'd invested more time here. But as I said, a little bit older, a little bit wiser now, not railing against the having to move out of home so much. I'm finding it a lot more enjoyable.
I mean, you would know, obviously, too, Tom, from suffering the injury early in the 2021 Olympic Games. You don't get too many opportunities to play for your country or to represent your country at elite sport. So this is your chance, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think the advice, because it did happen quite early. I think I was 18 actually, at a tournament when Rick Charlesworth sent me an email, kind of saying, I think it was April that year. I ended up debuting in November, but in April or May, he sent me an email saying, yeah, effectively, we'd like you to move to Perth. And because that happened, like I just finished high school, I was in my first semester of university. I was asking a lot of people what I should do. Like I really liked it in Sydney. I liked my degree. I liked what I was doing. And the resounding response was, "You work for a long time, so while you have the opportunity to do something special, like represent your country, you should do it." And it's been the best.
What was your degree? And have you had a chance to continue with it or finish it, or do you hope to go back to it?
Yeah, no, I finished a couple of years ago. I've a law degree now, so I work as a lawyer. But yeah, it was a fair slog. I think anyone who's yeah spent time in sport will know that it takes a while to get uni degrees done while you're competing, and mine took its time for sure.
And the fact that you are a lawyer, you obviously need to get time off work. You've obviously got a very empathetic employer who's willing to give you time off work. And I'm sure that it's good for them as well to know that they've got an elite sports star on their staff.
Absolutely, it does help as well that the company I work for, APM, is a sponsor of the Kookaburras, so that's very handy, and probably the only reason why I got the job is because they probably felt compelled to give it to me.
Great to have Australia men's hockey player be one of the stars, one of the key players for Australia in their quest to win gold at the Olympic Games in Paris in a few weeks' time. For dashing down to Olympic adventures, Tom Craig for Aussie Home Loans. Their areas of expertise include purchasing a property, owner-occupied or investment, building a property portfolio, refinancing, debt consolidation, cash out construction, pre-approvals, first home buyers, equipment loans, car loans and personal loans. And they've got over 25 lenders on their panel. You've had Rick Charlesworth as your coach, one of the all-time greats as a coach and a player, and another all-time great as a coach and a player, Colin Batch. Can you describe the differences between the two, if there are any?
Well, I actually Rick asked me to come over to Perth, and then he retired. So
Right.
before I managed to get coached by him, I had Graham Reed for the first couple of years.
Yep.
And as I said, like when you're young, who is in his own right, by the way, a great Kookaburra and a great coach. He's travelled all the way traveled all around the world coaching, did great stuff with the Indian men's team as well. And when you're young, I think you don't really, you just are happy to be there. So whatever the head coach says goes, and you don't really think about it too much. It's just so new and so special. And I've had Batchy for the majority of my career, so I think 8 years or something now. And it's not just Batchy, the entire coaching staff as well. Rob Hammond, Anthony Potter too. We've all together as a group been through some highs and lows. We've had some great highs. We've also had some real lows, and I think the way that the coaching staff has managed to guide us through those and get us into a good spot towards like just on the doorstep of Paris is really good and a testament to their coaching.
Tom, I was lucky enough to be part of the media team in 2018 at the Commonwealth Games, looking after weightlifting, powerlifting, wrestling, and also badminton. And I was there for the final for the men's hockey team, sort of helping the media team out a little bit. And I was watching Colin, and he just, to me, I mean, maybe on the inside he gets tense, but on the outside he seems so relaxed. Is that his persona most of the time?
I think I think the good thing about Batchy is that he knows when to calm things down, but he's a competitor. That's for sure. Like Batchy loves winning, and he loves competing, and I imagine he would have been exactly the same as a player. And I think that's something that the players can really get behind. To be honest, I think we're all competitive people, but if you have a head coach who just like really loves the challenge of big moments, and loves the challenge of showing opposition who we are and how well we can play. That's definitely something that drives the team forward for sure.
Dashing Dan's Olympic Adventures for Aussie home loans. You can deal with anyone in Australia. They've got clients in every state and capital city. They do Zoom as well, which we're doing with our guest today, who'll be representing Australia in Paris at the Olympic Games, and the men's hockey team, one of their star players, Tom Craig. Tom, looking at the team, there's a great mix of youth and experience, plenty of depth in the side. I mean, the most experienced player is the great Eddie Ockenden. I'll ask you a couple of questions about him shortly. Over 400 games, his fifth Olympic Games. You've got some young players as well. Looks like it's a pretty good team.
Yeah, it's a good team. It's a good team. We've got not just the 16 who have been selected to go to Paris, but also some really, honestly, world-class players who have been left out of the squad, which really shows the depth. Tim Howard, Nathan Efrons, and Johan Durst are all incredibly good players in their own right, and very unlucky to miss the team, but that just shows the depth that we have in the squad. And as well as that, we have all the guys who are back in Perth, who are a little bit younger and also pushing us to be the best that we can be, and best prepared for Paris. But the team is good. We're in good form. Thing I will say about the international hockey scene at the moment is that is so open. I think there's maybe 4, 5, 6 teams who all on their day could beat any of the other top 4 or 5. So it's going to be an awesome competition, and we're really looking forward to it. And so should fans. Actually, it should be good quality hockey.
Well, you're in Pool B with Belgium, India, Argentina, New Zealand, and Ireland. Great to see Ireland, which is my father's home country, in the Olympic Games for the first time in 8 years. So that's great news. And Pool A, Netherlands, Germany, Great Britain, Spain, France, and South Africa. So as you say, Tom, probably no easy games. Who do you see in Pool B as your toughest opponent?
I mean, honestly, at the Olympics in particular, like none of those games are easy games anyway, but at the Olympic Games, they become doubly so, you know. Belgium, obviously, Olympic champions, silver in Rio. They won the World Cup in 2018, silver in the World Cup in 2023. So they've got a really good, experienced team, have kind of been the gold standard for much of the last 8 years. So they'll be a tough beat. New Zealand, never easy beating them. We narrowly got over them in the Olympic qualifier. They're a really good team. Argentina play totally different. They're very very hard to break down, very hard to win clean against Argentina. But to be honest, all of the games are going to be tough. And we're looking forward to every challenge because they all present very different challenges.
a huge sport in Belgium now, isn't it? It's really come on in leaps and bounds, and that's why their two national teams, the men and the women, are pretty strong, especially the men.
Yeah, for sure. I think especially this current crop of players from Belgium, they've been together for quite a while, like over 10 years. And that was a really interesting one because when that team first got together, they got they had a period of getting smashed by opposition, but that's what happens when you stick with the same guys and they're good players too. They very quickly became one of the best teams in the world, and they've stayed right at the top for such a long time. So we can't wait to play them. Whenever we do play them, we usually have a really, really good, entertaining game. So looking forward to that one.
You have 1 3-day break after you play your first game. You've then predominantly got matches every second day, and then you have back-to-back pool matches at the very end. What's the preparation like, and how does it change the more matches you play, especially if you're going back-to-back? And then, of course, if you continue on, and we expect you to, into the quarterfinals, or we certainly hope you do, into the quarterfinals and semis, how does that all change in regard to being prepared for games?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that we're not accustomed with in hockey. Usually, or traditionally, we've had tournaments that maybe go over 8 to 10 days, and you might play 6 to 7 games throughout them. So we're definitely no stranger to back-to-back games. Just recently, we had a tour of Europe where we played 2 blocks of 4 games in 5 days. So game, game, break, game, game, and then we did the same the next weekend. So backing up is something that we do in hockey. And we've been prepared for it for yeah, I mean the entire cycle, but really our whole careers are usually based around back-to-back games. So, but at the Olympics, you're really looking at any opportunity or any advantage you can get over the opposition. So obviously recovery is huge. Eating, getting in the ice baths. The AOC usually has a really great recovery center, and we expect it to be there in the village. So just doing everything we can to get our bodies in the right shape because it is a long tournament, and no matter how accustomed you are to it, by the end of the tournament, you kind of just you're really hoping that you've done all the work because it does get hard in your legs for sure.
Have you had a chance to play on the hockey pitch that they'll use for the Olympic Games in Paris yet, Tom?
Not yet, not yet, and that does make a difference actually. So we're in Paris for 9 days, I think, before our first game, and that's a major part of it. Hockey pitches are different all the way around the world, and they all play completely differently. So the first few days for sure, we'll be trying to get our feet under us, figure out how the pitch plays. Is it sticky? Is it bouncy? Is it slow? Is it fast? Is there a grain? All these sorts of things. So yeah, quite a lot goes into it, and we all can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, as you said, you had that tour of Europe recently. Happy with how it went? You probably didn't win all the games, but I mean, winning games, I suppose, at this stage of an Olympic campaign, maybe not as important as just, I suppose, getting accustomed to each other again and getting prepared, getting some games under the belt. Was that what the aim of the tour was, more than anything else?
Yeah, for sure. I think the European tour was a really interesting one because it was getting to the pointy end of selection. So, on one hand, it was about cementing your own place in the team, but on the other hand, it was about making the team as close as possible and working out those connections because having 8 games against strong opposition in Europe is about as good an audition for the Olympics as you can possibly have. So, um, inevitably, like we lost the first 2 games of those 6, and then we came home pretty strong, either winning or drawing every other game. And in the end, we won the league. So that was definitely pleasing. And I think more pleasing was probably the growth in the team that we showed over those 8 games.
Pool A, I mentioned earlier, Netherlands and Germany, and that. Who do you think's the best team in Pool A? Which, if you're lucky enough, and I think most of us are hoping you will be, you'll get a crack at them come the quarterfinals and the knockout matches.
Yeah, again, tough. I think uh, Germany, Holland, and Belgium and GB actually all just played each other in another one of those mini tournaments in Pro League, and they had some really mixed results. So any of those teams, I mean, Belgium's in our pool, obviously, but Germany, GB, and the Netherlands are all really strong teams, and they've been taking points off each other the entire time. Very different style of play, but each very effective in their own right, and that's not to detract from France, for example, who just made the final of the Nations Cup. They were down to New Zealand, but We lost to France last year, actually, in 2023 for our first time, maybe ever.
Okay.
And they have a really good team too, and they're playing in Paris with a French crowd, so they're definitely not to be underestimated either.
I mean, you would know that experience, of course, from the Gold Coast in 2018. How much does a home crowd help?
Yeah, it's huge. It's huge. I think, um, especially for these French players. I mean, hockey's not a huge sport in France, and to be in that generation where you can play in Olympics in Paris of all places, that will definitely send them up another level. So with them plus the crowd behind them, they're going to be a tough beat for sure.
Tom Craig is my guest on Dashing Gans Olympic Adventures. Will be representing Australia in the men's hockey tournament. He was part of the team in 2021 and then got injured in the first game. And looking forward for him to have a big role in this campaign in their quest to win their second Olympic gold medal. And they've won a lot of medals over the years, going back to 1964. That's how strong this Australian men's hockey team has been. We're here for Aussie Home Loans. They've got over 25 lenders on their panel. I touched before on the great Eddie Ockenden, Tom. He just keeps on keeping on. He's 37. He's played the most number of games in the history of Australia men's hockey, well over 400. What's the secret to his success and longevity and durability, do you think?
Um, well, I mean, that's it. He's probably the most talented. I actually say the most talented hockey player I've ever played with. I think. Um, that being said, he would probably dominate any sport that he decided to play. It's just lucky we got him in hockey. He's one of those people who just moves differently to anyone else. I think if anyone's ever seen him play or train, he just has a way of holding the ball, carrying the ball that no one else really does. It's like he was born with a hockey stick in his hand. I'm not just saying that. He truly is unbelievable. And he hasn't lost that at all. He's 37 now, but he hasn't slowed down either. He's got probably the best skills. He's got the best hand-eye coordination. His basics are unbelievable. But more than that, he's one of the best teammates I've ever had as well. And I think that's also the secret is that people love having him in their team. And he is a guy who would never blow his own horn. He's probably one of the most humble athletes you'll meet. And I think maybe that's led to opposition underestimating him a little bit because he's so team first. He'll just do the right thing for the team all the time. But as I said, the most talented player I've ever played with.
I know you all want to win a gold medal, but because he's been through it so many times, how good would it be to win for Eddie?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Beijing, bronze medal. London, bronze medal. Rio, missed out in the quarters. Silver in Tokyo. So he's won a medal at 3 of the 4 he's been at so far, which is pretty insane, actually, to be honest, in team sport. And to get that one better for him would be a real icing on the cake. That being said, there's no no real reason he couldn't go for his 6th at this stage on his current trajectory. But let's say he does finish with a gold medal. I think that make him a pretty happy man.
Has he said anything about whether he might go again?
He hasn't said anything, but Ed doesn't tend to say too much about that sort of stuff anyway. So it wouldn't surprise me if he went around again.
Now, captains are a bit different nowadays. When I was growing up, the captain was the captain and the main leader. Aaron Zelwetsky is your captain, but I'm sure there's a whole lot of leaders in your team. What makes Aaron a good leader, though?
That's a good question. Aaron's been elected our sole captain. Usually we've um, been sharing the leadership around either co-captains or with a leadership group. But the thing about Moose, that's his nickname, by the way, Moose, Aaron
Why?
Moose
Why
Zaluski.
do they call him Moose?
I think, well, a couple of things. One is like his first nickname, I think, was Zeus, but it
Oh,
was a bit too like serious and didn't really encapsulate him. He's definitely no Greek god, but a moose on the other hand, pretty accurate. He runs around a bit like a moose too, big, imposing, big, heavy footsteps. But yeah, he's a great leader. I think he plays in a really important position for us, centre half. He's kind of the general. He organises our press without the ball. He's a big, solid presence with the ball, and he's really really matured into a great leader, I think. And he's put a lot of work into that, and we're happy to go to war behind him.
So, what's the lead up now? As you said, you'll be getting over to Paris about 9 days beforehand. So, obviously, training at the moment. Are you tapering off in regard to what you're doing? Much match simulation. What's the build up between now and your first game at the end of July against New Zealand?
It's been a reasonably long year. As I said, we just got back from a Europe tour where we played 8 games, which takes its toll on the body. So we had a week off after that in order to, well, kind of like active recovery. That was when selection occurred, and then just kind of building back into it. So we've got a series against Australia A next week, which will be really good prep considering the depth we have in this country, and then we basically go to Paris. So I think, as far as fitness is concerned, everyone's happy with where we are. We're in a good spot, and yeah, we're fit, ready to go to Paris. I think it's a little bit more just about freshening up before you really lock it down the village, because 9 days before you play that first game, that's quite a long time, really, to really sharpen up those combos that are already pretty sharp to start with. So yeah.
Do you get a break once the Olympics are over, Tom? And what do you plan to do?
Yeah, yeah. I conveniently have a wedding of a mate in Italy
Oh wow!
shortly after the games. I'm also traveling to Scotland with my girlfriend and her family, which will be really cool. Haven't been to the Highlands of Scotland before, so very excited to do that. And basically just chill out. I think it's been such a long. It doesn't really just start in the 6 months prior. Prep for Paris starts pretty much after Tokyo, but definitely starts ramping up a year out. We had our qualifiers in August last year, so basically from then on in, we had this big fitness block that kind of carried us into the start of this year, and then it's just been games. So pretty keen for a break.
When do you start thinking about it again? Yourself?
I'm straight off to play a season in Germany actually after the holidaying, which will be pretty fun actually. I think the thing with our sport is there's always one eye on the next Olympics. As I said, there's no mistake. It's the pinnacle of our sport, and everyone loves going to the Olympics, and that's kind of where we get to play on truly a world stage with eyes who don't typically just watch hockey. Will be tuning in. So it's such a special event, especially multi-sport event too. So cool and so special to have Australia behind us. But yeah, probably I like to kind of start my real Olympic prep really sharpening in about a year out. And so yeah, I think it'll just be enjoying my time in Germany. We'll have a lot of games for the Kookaburras. In between that, there's a World Cup coming up. Maybe a Com Games, maybe not. So yeah, it never really ends, to be honest.
Will you be marching, or because games virtually start straight away, you won't be able to march at the opening ceremony?
We play Argentina the next day. Typically, it is that Australia. We don't march, yeah. But maybe this year, not sure. We're standing on a boat. Maybe Eddie Ockenden might be the flag bearer. Unsure. No scoop there, but it would be really cool for him, and I think his name naturally would be in the mix. So if that happens, I don't know what we'll do. He'd probably want to. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Gee, he'd deserve it. I remember back in, I did say earlier you're playing New Zealand first. Of course, your first game is against Argentina. But I remember when Mark Knowles, a good friend of yours and a former teammate of yours, was named as and he was the right person for it, the flag bearer for the 2018 Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast. And how good was he as a leader in regard to just getting everyone involved and making sure every single member of the team, whether you were an athlete or a non-athlete, just part of the whole experience. I mean, it was a great moment, and to be given the job as flag bearer would be fantastic for Eddie. And I mean, he thoroughly deserves it, doesn't he?
He sure does. I think there's nothing that would probably make him feel more uncomfortable than standing in front of an entire team with the attention on him. And that's something that that's been maybe passed down through our leaders. Knowlesy, I think, as you said, did the right thing, or did a similar thing. He started at the front, and then as soon as we started marching, I think he dropped to the back and got everyone else to walk in front of him and just simply carried the flag. and that really kind of personifies who Nosy was as a leader as well. Team first, and I think that's something that fortunately we've managed to keep going with Kookaburras.
And Tom, before we let you go, and we really appreciate you joining us on Dashing Down's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans, what would winning an Olympic gold medal mean to you?
It's definitely something you've thought about. I think most kids who've grown up watching any Olympic sports probably have imagined themselves on the dais there, with a medal around their neck. But um, I mean, for us, it would really just be a fairly good marker of all the work we've put in over this period. And I think that would be kind of a nice feather in the cap to acknowledge that, I guess. Yeah, would it change things dramatically? I think a lot of gold medalists say it doesn't. And I think just without one around my neck, I would say it wouldn't change too much because I think we're already proud of what all the work we've done. Um, but as you say, when you're there performing on the world stage, it's really how you perform under pressure that matters. And I think if we won that gold medal, we would be able to say that, yeah, we could take that pressure in our stride and still do something pretty amazing. So that would be a nice moment for sure.
Absolutely. And just a general question on the women's team. They've been fifth virtually at every Olympic Games after they dominated for 2 years in 96 and 2000. How close are you to the girls? Obviously, they're based in Perth as well. And how great. I mean, they were very unlucky, weren't they? They lost 1-0 and they probably dominated the game against India and missed out in going through to the semi-finals, having done everything right, being undefeated in the lead-up back in 2021. Bit of a different team going around this time, but how good would it be if they could have some success and win a medal for the first time in 24 years?
That would be awesome. How close am I? Well, my partner plays for the Kookaburras, Alice Arnott, so she's going to go to her first games. So reasonably close, and I think they're in a good spot as well. To be honest, just like the men's, the women's is really wide open. I think all teams have taken points off each other at various stages throughout the year, so that's another competition that could really go anyway. And the Kookaburras are as good a chance as any, and I think they'll be pretty happy with where they're at going into the Olympics as well, for sure.
So the fact that you and Alice are together and you play the same sport, you obviously get to see a fair bit of each other. How well does it work being elite sports people, being in a relationship, Tom?
I think, well, I mean, I've heard with any relationship there are pros and cons. I think,
Yes.
for example, we're both very busy with our tour. For example, like going to Europe, we were on tour together, which was actually, well, not actually, but it was really nice because we could kind of support each other there. But we're there to do a job. But the nice thing was that you didn't have to check in and try and figure out the time zones and when they're going to be awake and when you just walk over and have a coffee with them. So that was pretty nice. I guess we both kind of understand the highs and lows of sport. And yeah, I think that definitely is a major benefit. We know what it takes, I think, as well to get to where we want to be, and we understand that some sacrifices or choices have to be made. So yeah, for me, it's working really well.
How much of a kick did you get out of her being selected, and how confident were you both that she would be selected for this Olympic Games?
Yeah, it was awesome. I remember I live with another Olympian, Tim Brand, as well.
Yes.
And actually, the day of selection, we were moving house. So we just got back from Europe, all a little bit jet lagged. The team was supposed to come out at 8 a.m. and the removalists were supposed to arrive at 6:30 a.m. So we thought, okay, that's good. We'll be up, we'll be ready, we'll be pretty busy when this comes around because there's nothing worse than just waiting all day for a team to be announced. I know the GB men had their team announced at 5 p.m., which just would have been torture the entire day. So fortunately, it was up. Teams announced at 8 o'clock, and then you can go about your day. But for us, the removalists arrived at 8 o'clock. So it was madness. I remember it was just all happening. Alice had to go and move her car, and all of a sudden it was 8 o'clock. So I ran around trying to find her, saw her up the street, walking down with tears in her eyes, and I was just thinking, no, this is terrible. And then she moved her hands away from her face, and she was laughing and crying at the same time, and that was just the most amazing feeling for me. I actually hadn't checked that I was in the team at the time, so then I checked my emails, and after celebrating with her, and fortunately, I was also in the team, so was Tim. So it was a really awesome day for all the household. And Indy, Tim's partner as well, she gets to go to Paris too. So the whole house is going to Paris. Very cool.
Did you feel like you could lift anything, no matter how heavy it was? You've got a lot of heavy, big items, Tom, because of the fact that you're all in the Olympic Games.
We'd been advised by many people at Hockey Australia that moving house just before the Olympics was among the most stupid things you could do, and probably true. So we we tried to make it as easy on ourselves as possible. We hired removalists, we hired everyone who could possibly be hired to make it happen smoothly, and it was well worth the money.
What is it about removalists are always late? My partner's daughter, her removalists were very late a few weeks ago when they were moving house here in Melbourne. I mean, they're never on time. I've had a few removalists in my time. They always keep you waiting, don't they, Tom? Drive you mad.
They well, I mean, it kind of worked out well, and they were awesome at their job. I'm amazed at removalists. The stuff that they can carry, they make it look so easy, and I'm in awe of them.
Well, Tom, I wish you all the best. I just want to ask you one more question. You were confident you were going to go to the Olympic Games, weren't you? I mean, you've been in the team regularly for the last few years. You only didn't play a big part in the Olympics in 2021 because of a hamstring. You didn't really feel that you were going to miss out, did you?
I think with the Olympics and sport in general, the fact is that no one's spot is safe. Like no one has a spot on the Olympic team until they're named. I don't think even Eddie Ockenden would be thinking maybe I'm not going to go. The only time I've ever thought for sure that I was going to be in the team was in Tokyo because I was rehabbing an injury prior to the team, and Bachi actually said, "Yeah, like we're going to pick you," so that I could just spend a little bit more time on rehab, and that took the stress of selection out of it. But the fact is that in elite sport, you don't know, you do not know, and you can't count your chickens before because someone could just emerge at the last minute and play better than you and take your spot. So yeah, I guess maybe what was a better indicator would be the European tour. I was pretty happy with how I played at the European tour, but as I said, there's so much depth in our squad and there's so much depth all around the country that yeah, I really only knew for sure when I opened the email, and I think that goes for most people.
Was it relief or delight or both?
It was both. It was both. It was actually, to be honest, I was really delighted for Alice. I think being selected in your first Olympics is something that is just so special. And then when I opened, it was relief that I also got to go, which was cool. So no, it was delight. It's just a cool moment. Yeah.
And have you reached out to the guys that have missed out? I mean, you can always say it's a bit like playing in a premiership, isn't it, in footy? You say, oh, you're part of it, you've had a great year. They just miss out either because of team balance or they get injured late in the year, but it's not the same thing. But have you still reached out to them and said you're still part of the team as best you possibly can?
Yeah, I mean, I went through it in Rio. I was a reserve. I was a lot younger then, but I missed out, but it was able to go as a reserve. And I think the fact is that everyone in the squad with the Kookaburras really contributes to the success of the Kookaburras in the Olympic Games. And it is it's selection day, honestly, is a really horrible day for everyone. Like coaches have to break the hearts of a lot of players. And then for us who have some of our best mates in the team, you feel that as well. So as much as people get selected, people don't get selected, and that's kind of a 4-year cycle that is kind of up in smoke. But especially with a team as close as ours, I think, yeah, I mean, the strength of our team is that everyone is so supportive of the people going, and while they've had their disappointments, everyone's turning up to training and doing the best they can to support us and make sure that the team that do go do the best they can for both Kookaburras in Australia.
Well, Tom, I really appreciate you joining us. Congratulations on your selection analysis as well. And Tim, your housemate, and his partner too. Can't wait to see how you both go in the Hockeyroos and the Kookaburras. I'm sure it'll be another fantastic performance, as it always is from the Kookaburras. and I really appreciate you joining me on Dashing Down's Olympic Adventures for Aussie Home Loans. Our areas of expertise include purchasing a property, owner-occupied or investment, building a property portfolio, refinancing, debt consolidation, cash-out construction, pre-approvals, first home buyers, equipment loans, car loans, and personal loans. Have a great time, safe travelling, and we can't wait to watch you in action. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Dan.